Right, welcome to another episode of 20 Schemes UNCUT. We're here today with two losers. No, we're here today with two lads from Glasgow. I'm supposed to do this because December's the Christmas challenge.
Funny that, innit? December.
And we're trying to raise money for new churches in Glasgow, and these boys are here to tell us why. But first of all, boys, just introduce people to who you are, where your churches are at. Come on, Tommy.
My name's Tommy. I'm from Maryhill. Well, I'm not from Maryhill, but that's where I currently reside and work. So Maryhill, for those who don't know, is a revitalisation we took on a couple of years ago now. So Maryhill Evangelical Church, for those of you who know the area, it's in just off the main road on a hill. So I've got used to the hills of Maryhill. They call it Maryhill for very good reason.
Fascinating stuff.
So
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But you tell that at parties to people, do you?
I do.
So how many people in Maryhill?
The Maryhill's got 10,000 people. It's
Wow.
one of the kind of biggest schemes of Glasgow, and it's one of the oldest also. So it's kind of spread out over a kind of long area, and it looks almost like there's individual schemes within it as well. But it's 10,000 people.
There's a lot of gentrification there, right?
Oh yeah,
A bit like Niddry.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big part of what we do now, and one of the challenges I think we were going to talk about at some point today is that how do people, the government tends to put all new immigrants or asylum seekers all into the kind of housing schemes of Glasgow, and Maryhill receives a lot of that.
It's interesting that this is a side issue, but Glasgow seems to receive more immigrants in the schemes than Edinburgh, right? I'm not sure why that is, but
Certainly Glasgow gets a ton of them. I was in Barlanark when I was there. Am I telling this? And when I first moved in Barlanark 10 years ago, or first started working in Barlanark, it was pretty much 95, if not more percent, like white Scottish people.
Yeah.
And today it's massively ethnically diverse.
Yeah.
It's just the same as right away Glasgow, isn't it? Like loads of Eastern Europeans.
When I came to Niddry about 15 years ago, it was pretty much 100% white. And it's only about 90% white now, but you can see the change anyway. Just down the road from you, if I remember, there is some sort of lodge, right?
Yeah, where people of a certain persuasion would gather.
That's Rangers, right?
Yeah.
So there were lots of crying when Gerard went to Villa. Or don't you know? Okay.
There's a flag. They have a flagpole, and it's currently flying at half mast.
Is it? And is that the reason? Honestly,
well, who knows? It's been flying at half mast ever since then. So
maybe it's because they got knocked out by Hibs, wasn't it? At the semi-finals.
I don't want to say too much because some of them might be listening to this.
Yeah. But aren't you a Celtic fan?
Me? No, I'm St Mirren, basically.
Right, Pete. Everyone knows you, but just say it again.
So, Pete Stewart, originally from Northern Ireland, just as I said, Belfast, but moved over to the west of Scotland when I was 9, and we planted in Barlanark. I think we launched 4 or 5 years ago.
And Barlanark in the East End.
East End of Glasgow, we schemed 4,000 people, part of the kind of greater Easterhouse area, which was kind of more traditionally one of the roughest parts of Glasgow, but a great place, love it. And we worked for one of the Church of Scotland's in the scheme for 5, I think I was there 7 years, and then we left the plant with 20 schemes, and yeah, it's been good. We actually don't meet in Barlanark just now. Through the pandemic, we lost the wee community centre we were meeting in, and so we've had to, there's a wee old Brethren Hall that have let us use it just a couple of miles down in a different community, so we've got a lot of people living in Barlanark and stuff happening, but we're not meeting there on Sundays.
And so how are you? So are you like trying to reach Barlanark and trying to reach Bayleston, or are you just what are you trying to do?
Yeah, so our church, I guess we'll come on to this, is kind of weird just now. Like, we are pretty much like 3 little churches in one. So Hope Community Church Barlanark is our name. Most of our members would live in Barlanark as opposed to other places, but we also have now a wee contingent from Bayleston. We've got a new planter, Mike and his family, that's going to separate from us and plant in Bayleston, and we've got another family that we're hoping to send to someone else we're doing in Glasgow. So our kind of church has really been a hub for.
That's not Kirkintilloch, is it?
Yeah, so Kirkintilloch is the other one. Hairstains is just the excerpts.
Is that in Kirkintilloch? Hairstains is the name. That's the church in the school.
Yeah, just in the grounds.
I love that place. All right, so one of the things that we discovered early on at 20 Schemes, which and do you know it's our 10th anniversary this month.
Yeah, I think.
10 years of 20 Schemes. Can you believe that? I can't. I'm impressed. I think with your possible 3 on the go. We've got another go. We could be up to 15 plants within there by the end of next year. So I'm encouraged by our progress, even though I said 20 churches in 10 years, which makes me a failure, by the way. I still think that we're picking up momentum. And one of the things, anyway, in the early days of the research that was striking to us was just how many schemes in Glasgow alone. When we counted it, this was years ago, there was 98. Is that about right?
Yeah, we did it recently again. I think it was 97 or 98 came back. So that's in Glasgow City alone. Like there's basically Glasgow City Council's got 600,000 people in it.
Yeah.
And in the greater Glasgow area, it's got like up to 1.5 million, I think. And there's a bunch more schemes running about that.
Yeah. Would you include Kilmarnock out there?
So that's even further right than that as well.
Because that is rough out there. So yeah.
Yeah, Kilmarnock I think is maybe the most deprived town in Scotland. I think I've heard in terms of.
Seems like the further west you keep going, the bigger the problems. And so one of the big things we wanted to, as 20 schemes, as sort of leadership, we were decided that we're going to prioritise Glasgow over the next 5 years. And how we're going to do that is recruit people, which we've been doing. I mean, we would have planted before now, had it not been for the pandemic, but we're going to recruit. We want to pour a lot of financial resources into the city. And we just want to try and make at least a small dent in people who are living out there. That's not to say we're not planning in other places, because we are, but this part of the Christmas challenge, part of the reason for this podcast, part of the stuff where I'll be in the States next year talking, and around the world will be, and on our website we'll be emphasising Glasgow needs the gospel, and Glasgow schemes are probably among the people who live there, probably among the least reached people in Europe, I would say, right now.
We were there was a Harper Church
and
they did some research which basically, I think the Barna research for Scotland a few years ago was 2.5% of people, and they were saying that in Glasgow they basically went round and said who's in a broadly evangelical church, and it was 2% of the people of Glasgow, and then they worked out where are the churches. And in the West End of Glasgow, more affluent student area, I think they had 4 evangelical churches for every 10,000 people. And then in the East End, where we were, our ward had 1/3 of a gospel church for 10,000 people, which is just a massive disparity. We see that all over Scotland, don't we? But I think in Glasgow,
what is it about the West and Eastern places? Like the West End of Edinburgh is the same. In the city centre, it's like take your pick, and then the further east you come out, it's just like less and less and less and less and less, and then nothing. Anyway, okay, so we've got these 3 schemes we're currently looking at. Are any other options on the table?
Yeah, and there's loads of folk there's loads of people that always get in touch about how can we work in their communities. I guess it's just about seeing where the Lord's going to lead us and we can get the right people on board.
And so tell us about you, because we're sort of, transitioning is not the right word, but definitely you're broadening your remit with 20 schemes, aren't you? So tell us
hopefully I'm not transitioning now, but taking on the kind of...
Transitioning is a posh middle class word for we're firing you, but moving you to the side, which we're not doing to you yet.
So I'm still one of the pastors of Hope Community Church Barlanark, but I guess getting to head up the training and planting and stuff like that in the west of Scotland as well, which is exciting. Like I love Glasgow, I'm from Northern Ireland, but it's very much similar type of people. I think, is it Kevin Bridges, the Glasgow comedian guy? It says Glasgow was voted Europe's friendliest city at the same time as the knife crime capital of Europe. And so he says something like it's the kind of place where they might stab you, but they'll take you to the hospital afterwards. Which I like, and it's kind of like Belfast, right? It's that kind of rawness, but banter, they do anything for you, but don't cross them, kind of thing.
And a lot of sectarian
for
divide.
Sure.
And so, so just on that, because a lot of people are going to be confused about, well, you know, why am I heading it up, or why isn't like the church at Niddry doing it? And the big issue is this: is 20 schemes is growing. We've got half a dozen churches in Edinburgh. We've got you guys out in Glasgow. We've got some up up towards Dundee, and then further north into Inverness, and then we're going to go further north right up into Wick at some point. But Glasgow and Edinburgh are so different culturally.
Sure.
The makeup. I mean, the issues the social issues we face are the same, but I do not. Those of us who live and work in Edinburgh don't have the same contact base, and I wouldn't know my way around Glasgow at all unless I was with you, one of you two. So I think it's important for us that someone out there in such a big, needy city who knows the people, who's known by church leaders as well, and people who are struggling. And so, yeah, so I personally am excited because that means it's less work for me. But I think it's exciting that your Barlanark as a church is now becoming a church planting church. And that's, I think, what's more exciting.
And I've always been excited about that. I remember like the
since
first
day
time,
one. Yeah,
you're always like, calm down. You need to plant one church before you can plant.
Yeah.
So,
Talking to myself.
The Lord's been good. I just think, well,
but it's amazing. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to multiply quicker now, because the churches we help to plant are now beginning to plant, and I think that's helpful. So, so what is it that you want from our supporters, or what is it that you guys need from supporters going forward? Apart from money, get your money out.
Like, honestly, the biggest thing we need is people, right? So when you say what opportunities we have, like I could rhyme off 6 or 7 different people I've spoke to in the last number of years, but we don't have people to send. And so,
what about the issue we've got though at the minute, that no British people seem to be?
So I just wrote a blog about that. It just went out today.
Yeah.
And so we're training 3 American guys, which are great. And one of my neighbours this week, or a couple of weeks ago, was like saying, "Oh, you guys really like Americans, don't you?"
Mm-hmm.
And I kept like, yeah. Like they are up in their families across the world to like spread the gospel. I love that. I would much prefer local people to do it, but there's just no one in Scotland, or very few people that seem to be.
And why do you think
that
Scottish Christians are not interested?
Don't know. I mean, I guess it's like do they see the pathways for that? I mean, I do think that a lot of the still traditional way of doing ministry is you go to Bible college for 3 years, you do an internship in a church, you do people who are already working in the community or living, or maybe haven't got the ability to go to Bible college right now, probably think, well, this is just not for me. And I guess that's what my point of that blog is. I want to see people who are like healthy members who love Jesus, who love the church, who love Glasgow, and maybe never thought they could be the type of person to get to plant a church. I'm like, well, no. Like,
and we have started our own theological training.
Yeah, exactly. We could do that, but we can do that in the local church.
Exactly.
Which I think is important. And that's what we want to do in Glasgow. I want to see not just our church to be a hub, but just little hubs of churches that plant churches and can train guys on the job, bring them into the ministry we're already doing whilst we do the training through 20 schemes, and then said they might replicate that. So my hope and prayer is that we find people in Glasgow in the West, or to be fair, Scotland, Britain, that maybe never thought I could be the kind of guy to do that. I've got the vision, got the passion, but...
Tommy, tell me what sort of men and women are needed to revitalise churches, because it's very different than planting from scratch, as you're finding out.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose just to kind of pick up on what Pete was saying, I mean, I myself, that study that Harper did a number of years ago was the catalyst that sent Lauren and I into this ministry when we recognised the need, because we were oblivious to it, in our own church at the time. But then we thought there's such a need there. We felt called into to help.
But you were a copper. You must have seen some of these places, right?
Well, that's right. But the thing is that you just, when you exist in your own church and it seems to be thriving, you're oblivious to that. It's not on your radar. And I think that forms a large part of why, because the schemes of Glasgow or the west of Scotland or any part of Scotland are not desirable places to live. They're the places that when you succeed in life, you leave. You improve your circumstances and you leave. So that's definitely one reason why there's a very small uptake on people to send, because nobody wants to go, and they don't see the need. And even if they see the need, they certainly don't want to go to these places to serve. So revitalisation, I think, to go back to your question, I think revitalisation would be a much more viable option around Glasgow, because there still are quite a number of these mission halls which exist. And they were all planted. I mean, this is a model which we're replicating people done 100 years ago. The churches planted mission halls in the schemes of Glasgow, and they went full circle. Most of them are closed, but there's many still exist there. But revitalisation is a much more viable option than people might imagine, but it's very, very difficult to do. It's a difficult process. Because, Pete, I wouldn't want to plant a church. It's a calling. You don't want to do it. God calls you to do it and you resist as best you can. But, the blank canvas thing is helpful, but you spent a lot of time, putting together and drawing the canvas up, whereas we go in and it's already drawn up and you trying
to burn it down.
But you need to be like kind and calm and stuff, don't you? I mean, that sounds boring.
Yeah, kind and calm. That's
on the
that's
outside.
The two main. That's the two main things you need to be.
But there is a difference because obviously we swim in a theologically conservative pool, and we're quite clear about that. But there can be a tension. I'm not talking about just you, or even talking about your place. I've done both, revitalised and planted. And in revitalisation, sometimes you're coming into. We say these old mission halls. That doesn't make them theologically sound. A lot of them didn't actually ever become what I would call proper functioning churches with male lead eldership, church membership, discipline, etc. And I think some people, particularly some of the Americans, have come over and I think they've been shocked. They've been like, why are we in a church that doesn't believe, the 5 points of Calvin like we do, or whatever. Well, I mean, we won't get into that. But you see what my point is. My point is, and some guys come over and they're like, they want to do revitalisation, but it's almost like they don't understand just how far back we are theologically.
I think when I spoke to some of these guys, I think that they expect revitalisation to be an old dying church that still holds the solid Bible teaching, just older people, and they're not really got the energy to do things these days. And there is some churches like that for sure, but really what we're seeing is more just a whole mishmash of theology. And
I came here. This is my 15th year. Can you believe that, right? And it had been in operation as a mission hall for over 100 years, and they had women in. They didn't have elders. These old mission halls. You say that like the churches. They took there's no doubt they had the gospel, but what tends to happen was a city centre church would open one. Someone would come and preach. A few people would get saved. They'd gather, but the big church would send preachers now and then to keep them up. But generally, it would be women. It would be matriarchal. They ruled the roost. They did whatever. Doctrine wasn't really high on the agenda. Let's just love Jesus and preach a simple gospel. And that happened over many, many, many years. And so even when I came here and there'd been a lot of work done by Charlotte Chapel, there was absolute. I mean, I had to strip it all back. So what's an elder? What's a church? What's the gospel? What's church membership? But. So it was 7 years. Even though I had the idea for 20 Screams long before, it was 7 years to get my own, if you like, house in order before we could start. And so I think some people come now to Nidra and they think, it's going to be like that, and you're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And I'm like, it's not going to be
Glasgow,
like that.
Like, the fact that we're wanting to plant churches is
So
bizarre.
be encouraged,
I think,
brother.
to people. Like, because a lot of the ministry that happens, and there is ministry that happens in the schemes with Glasgow, right? But a lot of it is like, kind of parachute in, do some stuff, some good, helpful stuff maybe, but then come out. The fact that we want to plant healthy gospel churches is bizarre for many people, but is what is needed.
Yeah, but just want to be clear that the work is hard.
Yeah, for sure.
We're sound theologically.
Some of us,
Well, he's a Calvinist in denial. That's what I'll put you in that category. You don't have to speak, and we'll just move along.
It's a whole new podcast.
We're sound, but some of the places we're coming into may not be, or at least certainly may not hold the principles. And so I think when we're recruiting people, I think one of the lessons I've learned anyway over the last 10 years is thinking we need to be clear about that. Yeah. Just because we know what we're doing doesn't mean that areas we're going into we're going to find some resistance, and that might be a shock in revitalisation.
And that's why we need churches like ours that can then train these guys, isn't it? And be that network of support. And because your own church might not be that for 5-10 years, but we are that for you. That's what we want to do as a hub.
Yeah.
We support that. So.
You happy there, Tommy?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that one of the taglines which at the start which drew me towards 20 Schemes as well was planting healthy gospel-centred churches.
It wasn't irresistible grace. It wasn't that tagline.
Well, so where'd I go with that? So the healthy gospel-centred churches, because you're right, the mission halls which were planted were there was a common love of Jesus, but there was so many gaps. What I would call gaps in their theology, which made it difficult to sustain over, beyond this generation for sure. So I think if we go back in with that understanding, we're planting healthy gospel-centered churches that are built on the foundations, of what church ecclesiology looks like in the scriptures, and take that as we go forward.
Yeah, but I've said people, look, these lots of places we go, they're believers. There's no doubt about that. They're believers. They love the Lord. They love their communities. But I would say that they're malnourished.
Mm.
We think of the whole counsel of God as there being 5-course meal or whatever, your healthy, balanced diet. They've just been, nibbling on bits. They've been eating McDonald's for 30 years. And I think they need a more balanced, healthier
And it
diet.
could be down to people's misunderstanding of what people in schemes are like, that they're unable to deal with this stuff.
A lot of it is that.
Yeah, and this is why the Ragged School started, to show that the people from the schemes, even though they've not had the higher education, many of them, they're still able to understand and articulate and deal with complex
Well, the
theological
Bible
issues.
was written to largely illiterate people. Tommy, you're an ex-copper. Do you tell people that? Is that your first? Hi, I'm Tommy, ex-policeman. I tell you about Jesus.
I just do the funny handshake and they know.
Do they?
Yeah.
I'm assuming you don't mention it.
No, I don't talk about it much. I mean, it comes up now and again.
Can we
and
out him
obviously-
then on this?
Well, yeah, I think Brian outed me a couple of times
Did he?
in the past, yeah.
So your transition is last something.
Yeah. So what he's saying is Brian's a grass. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, Brian is a grass. Brian
Police
Harlow is
informant. He's a
grass.
PI.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it forms a large part of of how I came into Twitter schemes as well. Working in housing scheme of Paisley, I think has equipped me for, in part, working in places.
So how
like
long were
Maryhill.
you busy for?
Best part of 9 years.
So,
yeah.
so I find this fascinating because obviously there's a few ex-policemen I know, believers, some of whom are completely cynical about what we're doing, even as believers, because they're like, you're a bit naive. You don't know the half of what we've seen. So how have you managed to? Maybe you haven't, to stop your heart becoming cynical to the communities, and actually, instead of like arresting them, now you've moved in trying to bring the gospel to them.
Yeah, you've really got to change your mindset and realise you're there for a different reason. You're not there, Matt.
But you must be able to see a deal going down in the street, and
Aye.
you know what's what, right? Because I do.
There's things that you kind of see and do. You think you know what's going on, but you kind of, I don't know, say I want to turn a blind eye to it, but
yeah, you do.
It's at that level where it can get dealt with by somebody else.
I remember when you were moved in Barlanark, and it was that kind of first stage of just coming out of the police and coming into this, and you're living like one of the roughest roads in Barlanark, and like stuff was going down all the time, and it was like I'm meant to go out and stop. I'm meant to get like must be.
That's right. I
different
never
change
had
of mindset, isn't it?
We broke up a fight between two ladies one time.
Exactly.
One was
Like,
getting
never do
knocked
that
with a
again.
skateboard. So
But I remember a guy, and I won't say where it was, in the UK, who moved onto a council estate, and his policy was if he saw a crime, he reported it to the police. He was calling the police every 5 minutes. His windows were going through. Locals were just slapping him. He said, "No, that's persecution for Jesus' sake." I said, "Well, I beg to differ. I think persecution for being an idiot. If I had to ring the police every time I saw something illegal, flipping heck, I'd never be off the phone." And so I'm not saying, listen, if I saw like a serious crime in which someone's been brutalized or whatever, you would report it. But when I see like kids outside the church smoking doobies, and do you know what I mean? I'm not thinking to myself, well, it's illegal, I better report this immediately, because that would just
it's one of those ones where you choose your battles.
Yeah.
You think what's the best thing we can do in this situation. And I suppose that if you want to live in amongst the people, if you want to be in there and serving, you're there for a different reason. So yeah, I mean, you could report crimes if you wanted to, but you may be better speaking to those people and sharing the gospel with them.
What's your view on that?
Certainly, we don't report half the crime that we would see either as well. But I am coming from a middle class background, right? And there is like a tension there for me. Like I guess with the Polish.
Yeah, I'm just inbuilt grassing is grassing.
Yeah, exactly. But then there is that something about you want to stand up for truth and what's right and stuff, and
But still grassing's grassing, isn't it?
so, there's definitely an
No,
internal-
but on a serious note, I mean, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe this is just my opinion, this is not the opinion of 20 schemes, nobody is endorsing, this is just a personal opinion, be very clear about this. But, if I saw someone getting mugged or some whatever, I would intervene immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not talking about, I just ignore serious crime, I'm just like... if I
Certainly,
wanted to-
I'm not the police, right? So we're not going about searching down drug deals or anything. I don't.
Yeah.
That's going to happen regardless of whether I can stop one or not. So I'm not.
Yeah.
That's not my-
Mm-hmm.
But that is a huge consideration. And again, it's something that it fascinates me when mission teams come over, and sometimes little interns will do 6-8 weeks for this in the summer, and I'll see them and I'll know a couple of lads are maybe outside smoking a doobie, a couple of our elders, and they know it's like that's drugs and that, and I can see the confusion. What do we do? It is a very it's a very difficult and different scenario, isn't it?
I guess that's where we're here for the long term, right? We want to build bridges and share the gospel.
The
last thing we're going to do is just create fires everywhere, because you're going to be seen as these weirdos
that
nobody listen to.
And just to be clear, because people will just take this as they want to take it. If we see anyone being injured, hurt, sexual offences, anything, that's
we call Tommy
a serious breach of the law. Trust me, they're immediately reported. But there is a little thing called wisdom and discernment, is all I'm saying. In some issues, it's like, my rule here is listen to the boys. All my football boys smoke weed, right? And take coke at weekend, whatever they're up to. And I'm saying, I'm interested in what you do. It's illegal. Stop it. That's my, then they all laugh. So I've done my bit. Just say no. But don't do it. Don't do it in my building. Because when I first came here, they were dealing in the building. It was just like, how are you not seeing this? And so the unwritten rule is, and no one deals here, deals on my property. Or at least if they do, then the rule is I will immediately notify the police, whoever you are. And so that's the old. Yeah, that's how I set the rules. How did we get onto drugs when we're talking about raising money?
Just Tommy, actually. It's just kind of.
I don't think it was.
I always feel like I need to confess to me when Tommy's in the room. I'm like, what does he know?
I'm not writing this down.
Christmas challenge this year. Tell us about the Christmas challenge in a little more
Pete
detail.
and I are doing a countdown video every day. That's not the right Christmas challenge.
No, but you can tell us about your countdown video, because you can. This is my favourite.
So
one
the
of my
best
favourite
part of Christmas, right, is that this is the 11th year, is that Pete and I do a video every day from the 1st of December to the 25th of a wee song, a wee challenge out and about.
Where can people access it?
It's YouTube.com/The Pete's Online. And it's the best thing about Christmas. So this is why we're here for this podcast.
My favourite bit is when you walk up to random drunks and then start singing around them.
There's a great one in Campus Lang where the guy came out of the pub off his face like, here we go.
Was it Here It Is, Merry Christmas, everybody's having fun. The guy was absolutely slaughtered, and they're just behind him going
Christmas cheer and all that. No, but the Christmas challenge is our kind of giving challenge for the month of December, right? And we are hoping to raise enough money to. He's like, you guys should know this.
When he said that was the best thing about Christmas, was how
Jesus.
We all know that Jesus is a given.
Exactly. And Jesus gives us joy, which can be two fat guys with a guitar, right?
Yes.
So that's cool. Anyway, we want to raise enough money to help launch 3 new church plants in Glasgow and launch the West of Scotland hub. And so we've already got 3 sites that we're working towards. One of them in Bales, one in Hairstains, and then Kilmarnock. We're trying to build teams for them. We're trying to, there's building work that needs done.
Yeah.
We want people to move into the communities. And so any money we raise will be massively helpful for that. And also for our West of Scotland hub, we want to be able to have the structure and infrastructure in place so that we can be training guys and again praying that people would get that vision and come.
And in a way, Barlanark is going to be like the Nidri of the West in terms of the base for the training, the ragged school and stuff like that. So so I am really encouraged about that. People tend to be very generous, our supporters over Christmas. So please support us in that. I think we're trying to raise 100 grand, which is a drop in the ocean. You know, we're hoping to raise millions over the next 5 years.
That'll make a massive difference.
No,
in the ground, for sure.
definitely we're committed to it. We're committed to. I mean, what's great is I think back over 10 years of 20 schemes is one. No one was talking about schemes like this when I started. They were all just going, what are you talking about? Secondly, we had no money, but yet year on year the Lord is, we're supported from all around the world. And almost every time we meet as a group of men to get we tend to meet to pray once a month when we can, someone's being saved. Even if some of us are struggling. I haven't seen anything for years because we're just building. Others are saying, no, we've been in it a bit longer. We're seeing souls come to saving faith. And that's the good thing. I think I was watching your video on on some, was it on our thing? The video, someone giving their testimony from
Oh,
your church.
yeah, for the weekend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Linda's one as well.
Yeah, and Linda's
that
one
was
as
great,
well.
wasn't it?
I thought it was really good. And so, yeah, that's the thing that encourages me. Like, we're going to keep going, we're going to keep doing this. The Lord's at work. And despite the ambivalence of the UK church to what we're doing, God's not ambivalent to the poor in Scotland, is he? And so I'm really encouraged by that. Okay, so give your money. What else we're talking about? That's it.
And come. And even
Yeah,
if you're
come.
Scottish,
And let me plug my book. You can put this link on it, video, whatever you
and
video
the Pete's
people do.
Online link for the
Pete's online link. My new book.
Tommy.
Do you got anything to promote?
No, I can't think of
Okay.
anything now.
So The Least, the Last, and the Lost now looks like it's coming out in January. I've seen, is it?
Beginning of January.
You know, that basically sets out the vision for what we're trying to do, really across the UK. And what I'm hoping is that this will inspire a new generation of young Christians to forego giving their lives to parachurch organisations or organisations that just work, you know, in and out of poor communities, but give their lives to church planting and revitalisation. In our community. So keep an eye out for that book. It's coming out soon, and also you'll find details about the massive amount of research we've done into poverty in the UK, and there'll be links on the website, and you'll be able to click on any of the countries in the UK and find out where the poorest communities are, and just give us an opportunity to think about what are we doing as churches and as Christians to reach people on our doorstep who are dying in council estates without Jesus. And that's the real point behind all of this.